I'm Seamless, and today is Sunday, which means it's time for a new viewer track review video. This one has some 4 tracks in there. Some of them are good, some of them are not as good, and we're going to listen to them, and I'm going to say some stuff about them. This first one, though, I want to make a point about that I should probably amend the little rule set in the submission dialog when you go to submit these things, which you can do, by the way, by going into the description of this video and clicking on the submissions thing, and it'll take you to where you need to go. I mostly talk about, like, you need to be the original writer, you need to have the rights for it, blah, 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 blah. And something that people tend not to think about is what happens when a track is actually released. When you sign your track to a label and then they release it. In most cases, this means that you're not the one that has the rights to the track anymore. The label is. So if you submit your track and it's been released, you have to have done so with the permission of your label. And the reason why this is bad is because if your track is released, and or even like even if it's not like really released through a label, but you do it through like TuneCore or CD Baby or whatever, chances are they managed to put the track into like YouTube's content ID or whatever, and it'll try to hit me with that anyway. I'm not too worried about this particular one, and I'm also pretty sure I can dispute it, but the point being is that make sure you actually do have the rights to your track. Even if it's yours, you made it and you released it, that does not necessarily mean you have the rights to your track. Just so you know. Anyway, let's have a listen. This track is called Prowler by Giant Spirit. Now, I could already tell everyone who listens to the song was thinking more or less, maybe not exactly the same thing I was thinking, but basically the idea is that when I listen to this song, this part That's the part of this song that people like. This is like the thing. Like, this is, oh yeah, this is awesome. And every time it happens, it's not there long enough. The whole part is only 16 bars long, and then it ends early. It has this one of theirs. At least it feels like it ends early. I have to probably count this to actually see if it does. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Maybe it doesn't end early. Well, it ends early in the sense that it should really be twice as long. Especially since you kind of blow the load a little bit earlier by having the song start out with it. Like, if you begin your song like this and then go into... Like, my first thought was, okay, that's the intro, right? So this is giving us the taste, and then here's the actual introduction. And then we do it again. And then we have this again. Like, what about these two parts is different? Like, I know that this has, like, a layer on it or whatever, and then so there's some extra shit here, but, like, there's not that big a difference. And then this big break here. You might have been better started off by having this be your intro. Actually having this entire part be your intro. Because, like, what's going on here is like an okay kind of precursor to what this would be. But it's not as good as this part. So, like, you had the right idea by being like, I'm just gonna put that part in there 3 times because obviously it's the coolest part, but not so much the right idea. The fact that you didn't make it center stage, and the arrangement on this whole thing is just super weird. On the other hand, this is a super good example of utilizing extraordinarily basic sound design to do super solid stuff. There's nothing exciting about the sound design of this song. Everything about it is the most normal thing in the world. It's basically all saw based, every single part of it. Unless there's some parts of it that are made with squares, but for the most part, it's all just super saws. I mean, the bell stuff might be squares. Or just record as bells. I don't know. If I were to synthesize it, I would do it with squares. But everything else about this, there's no neuro, there's no step of any kind. This is all just like the most basic stuff, and it's used perfectly for what it's supposed to do. And the mix is wonderful. The sort of the balance of everything and how like everything about that is just so on point. Like that whole section is the really the only part that makes this song like one of the better ones that I would like. Because if this wasn't here, like it was just this the whole time, it'd be really good like background music for maybe some like commercial somewhere. So you have a future doing that. But like this makes it this bit makes it like an actual like accessible song that could go places if it weren't for the fact that you didn't focus on that, and then when you did it was too short. It was just too short. You could seriously have just doubled it every time, and nobody would have cared. Nobody would have been like, oh, that went on too long. No. The intro could have been handled a little bit better just because it just kind of built, and then suddenly it's suddenly the climax, and then suddenly this weird break happens. Got kind of weird. Anyway, that's that song. Giant Spirit by Prowler. Pretty cool. I don't even remember what this one is, but we'll find out. It's called Pulse, or no, it's called 119 by Pulse. It was made by Pulse. I don't know. that was fun. This is really another very soft but very solid track. Everything about this is more or less on point. I can't really recommend changes for any of it, other than my usual. It could always be harder, it could always have more sound design, but that's just me. Tracks like this, though, often make me wonder, because it uses, lots of those vocal samples, which are not necessarily saying anything. They're part of something that obviously at one point did say something, but they're not, they're pitched around and moved in such a way that they're indiscernible forever. And it makes me think of hardcore bands. And the reason it makes me think of hardcore bands is because if you think about the timeline of the creation of the breakdown, and like the mainstay of those kinds of bands, where it's just sort of like, and like the genty stuff too, is that this comes back to the idea of not doing stuff because it's too easy. And this sort of vocal processing, I believe, stems from that, because back when, at least I was trying to sort of do, the like 2012 kind of squirrely, growly sound design, one of the things I ran into a lot was that it was really easy to make, to take like a vocal sample, make a vocoder, and then turn it down so far that it just sounds like your average gurgly, like octave down male voice. That just sounds way too fake kind of thing, versus something that just sounds like a really low voice, which is really hard to do. And so like I would have always avoided doing that. And then like in the ensuing years, a whole bunch of things would come out that were just that were just like pitching voices down. That's just what the sound is now, including Skrillex himself. And then they have things like this, which like a lot of like the how the sound of genres like this, like the whole future whatever, and like a lot of modern trap and a lot of modern hip hop even, they just pitch things down, even though and do nothing else. That's just how it sounds now. And that's just like how that sounds. People like how that sounds, and they're used to it now. It's just very strange, because I really, the reason why I at least didn't do that earlier, just because I thought it was too easy, and it just sounded too easy to me. Which is another object lesson in what does it got to do with hardcore bands? Well, breakdowns existed before hardcore bands did, and a lot of the times the artists that would do them did them with a certain amount of complexity because they thought it was just too easy to just go dirt, like really just simply do their thing. And then the newer bands that came up with were like, oh, that'd be really great, except let's just do it even simpler. And then they're the ones that are more well known now. So more lessons in simpler does not necessarily mean worse. Unless, of course, you're, defining your abilities based on your complexity. This one is a song called ID, because it doesn't have a name. And it's by an artist named Red R.A.D. Presumably. And this is what this sounds like. So what I like about this song is that it's nice and hard. It's hits very heavy all the time. The drums are very nicely mixed, along with the kicks and the snares and the bass. All are really good put together for the most part. The sound design is nice and crunchy. It gets kind of stale after a while because it's more or less the only thing that's happening there, but that's kind of okay because a lot of songs in this genre really are just kind of like one or two big things and just happen over and over again because that's just how it works. The thing that gets me, that bugs me about this track, is the transition between the intro and the drop and then the breakdown of the drop. And that's because there is none. It just happens. This is like we've been doing this. And suddenly drop. Like so much so that it actually kind of feels like it's still the intro. And really what could solve this is just need to have a break and rise. Like you could either half as long as this or just put in another 8, 14, 16 bars. Like kind of like here. Just break it down and then just like do your drum fill or whatever, build up and just do that. And then the drop would have made sense. And this is especially important, like this fill right here. That's like the most like misleading fill ever to put in front of this drop, just because it's full time, and you put in a halftime fill, so it's like it's if you could not have more intentionally made your listeners unready for the drop, and it's not the kind of good unready where suddenly like, oh, I wasn't expecting it to be so heavy, blah, blah, blah. And like if you're not expecting it to be there at all, and then that makes it jarring in a way that's not necessarily on the line of the people just being like, oh, it was sick and nasty, and just being like, oh, it was actually kind of nasty, bro. Clean that shit up. It was the same deal the second time. You need more inter-percussion. And what I mean by that is like maybe you can hear a teensy bit of it happening in there every once in a while when like the tambourines show up. You need more and less or even less because that's what like is kind of happening here. Which granted can work. Like there are plenty of like perfectly fine songs out there that are just like that's all it is. But if you had at least a little bit of that in here, even if the fill was like to introduce the concept of full time, so that when it happens, you're not just like surprised by it. Anyway, good sounds, good mix, good times, just weird arrangement. All right, this is called V Future Trap Dubstep ID. So I'm assuming the ID means that that's the name of the song, and that the artist name is V Future Trap Dubstep. It's probably called. You're probably V. Your probably name is probably V, and you're just labeling your genre Future Trap Dubstep. But that wasn't the format that I requested. But I guess it's whatever. Anyway, I actually don't even think I listened to this one. I mean, I must have for me to put it here, but we'll find out. I remember this track now. Now, this is interesting, because when I first heard this track, I mostly hear this bit first. I was just assuming that this whole song was going to be like this. And, like, what is this? What I mean, what is like? And it is like the sounds, this chord sound is just on top of everything. The kicks, no kick, no snare can survive under the wrath of this pad. And I was just going to give the mixing talk about how, like, you should usually have your kicks and snares louder than everything else, kind of thing. And then this part happened. Over here, this bit. Like, that started to make more sense. Like, this bit felt a bit better. The thing is, though, is that I'm looking at this, and, like, I can usually see the side shading. I can kind of see it happening for the sub here, for, like, on the snares. Those are kicks. Oh my god. Can't even see the snares. So never the hell you mind. Like, your sidechain game. Okay, so, like, I get this is like future trap dubstep, whatever, which means that, like, a lot of the rules are probably gonna matter, but I feel like you are sidechaining and that you're sidechaining extremely tight. And you should give it a little room and maybe a little bit more release to have it kind of breathe through it. And that will add quite a bit of impact, because this track is missing quite a bit of impact, despite having all the correct elements there, you know what I mean? And then I was going to get on your case about the snare, about being like, yeah, I know that most trap has snares that aren't as impactful, but you're going to do the dubstep thing, and then later you actually brought a snare that made sense. So this mix started to make more sense to me, but then you started to bring the chord back. And that interstellar-y sounding lead, and, like, none of those feel sidechained enough, and they feel they're louder than all the other elements. They're louder than everything, and the balance is not there for that, and it just feels very strange. And, like, I think I would have been almost okay with this part if this had kind of built into that part, which is where I felt like it was gonna go. But this part just feels like a badly mixed, like almost a mashup. Like someone found this chord pad intro to something and it's kind of layered it on top of your track in a DJ mix, like a live show or something. That's kind of what this part sounded. It sounded like. It's not necessarily that you need to sidechain it. Maybe just turn it down, honestly. Leveling is very powerful. And this is what I mean by what I was going to make them talk about. You should have your drums louder than your sounds. I used to do that same thing. I used to make the sounds like just louder than everything else until one day some guy told me, you should have your drums be kind of like the main deal. And it's not like I just took his word for it. I was like, oh, wow, this random dude just told me that my drums should be louder. That never occurred to me. It's just that, like, it has to do with the idea of referencing. Like, you're listening to the tracks that you're referencing about and just being, like, focusing on what's actually happening as opposed to focusing on your memory of it. Because your memory of it, you're going to focus on the parts you like the best, which might be the sounds, not so much the drums. But if you listen to the actual reality, you'll usually discover that the drums are quite powerfully destroying everything whenever they're around. Of course, you also might be saying, well, this is feature trap hybrid dubstep. And that means that, like, a lot of that doesn't make a lot of sense. The problem with that thought is that, no, it might not for whatever this is, but for all those individual elements that you just listed in your feature trap dubstep hybrid step, is that all the individual genres that this is supposed to represent all do that. They all have that same sort of display of the drum elements being louder than everything. Trap and the snares, not so much, but future stuff, definitely, and dubstep, definitely. Which I know you get, because you did, like, over here. It's like, this part makes sense, mix-wise. Like, it has all the balance that you need to have, and then the chords come in and just kind of kill it. Like, it looks a little bit like you're sidechaining it, just because it seems to go away, but that might just be master compression because you're just trying to slam these two very loud things together, coming off and just ducking it by virtue of crushing your master. Of course, that's all speculation. I don't know what the fuck's happening here, but it's cool as hell. Oh, it's bit crushing pianos. That does look sweet though, doesn't it? Anyway, other than the things I said, good job. V. Anyway, if you'd like to have submissions reviewed, whatever, go to the link in the description of this video that's entitled Submissions, and then read all the rules out of there. If you have any questions about this, please let me know. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and all that good stuff. And as usual, have a nice day.